What's the most badass thing you've accidentally said in the heat of the moment? Story 1. This one had a little setup, but I think it's funny enough to share. At a family vacation, my grandmother was giving me grief for not remembering her birthday. I have never been good with birthdays. After telling me it was the password to her iPhone, she wanted me to take a picture with it, which is why I needed the password. While she was distracted, I opened up the settings, changed her password to my birth date, and then set her phone down. 15 minutes later, she's trying to get into her phone and it's not working. Suspecting mischief, she grumpily asks me if I've changed the password to her phone in front of our entire family. I admit that I did. Well, what is it? She asked impatiently. It's my birth date. She sat there in stunned silence for about 15 seconds, not being able to remember my birthday before our family exploded laughing. Was a good time. Story 2. When I was in high school, I joined the show choir band as the electric guitar player. I was generally a pretty shy kid, so being surrounded by the show choir crowd was a bit of an adjustment. I remained mostly pretty quiet at rehearsals and such and just kind of showed up and did my thing. During one of our competitions, we had just received results from the daytime round and were told we had scored just a few points short of first place. As our director made his way through the feedback from the judges, one thing that was mentioned was great band, but need more guitar. One of the singers turned to me and said, "Dude, you should rip a solo in finals." I politely shook it off, as I figured there was no way this idea would fly with the director. But before I could get that thought across, there was already more singers chiming in and chattering over it. I figured what the heck and spoke up to the team, saying I was willing to give it a try. There was some awkward silence. In an effort to break it up, I muttered the judges said they want more guitar. I think I can provide that, and the room erupted. Everyone went out fired up and we performed easily our best show of the year. I played the solo during one of the dance breaks at the end and got a big roar from the crowd to ice the cake. Devastatingly, we came in second and certainly felt robbed. But the guitar solo ended up becoming a mainstay for our show after that. Story 3. Partly accidental. Was doing a university project. Had to do a large presentation in front of maybe 50 to 60 other students about a possible business of manufacturing an education toy for kids. It was a bit of a train wreck, as no one else in the group had rehearsed or even read the script. As with all presentations, they asked for questions at the end, and I stepped up to answer questions. There was one guy at the back that always asked awkward questions, like what if someone were to injure themselves and sue you? Or have you factored in matching employees' pensions? It was meant to be a fun project for first-year students. They weren't expecting tons of detail. When it came to asking questions, I volunteered to answer them. The guy opened right away asking awkward questions, but he misjudged how I am with details. I asked the lecturer hosting the session if I could load up my spreadsheet. He allowed it. That's when the guy realized he had asked the wrong guy. I had made an automatic spreadsheet that would work out how many people were needed, how many machines, what hours people could work, rolling production over 24 hours and overlapping shifts to ensure it all worked at maximum efficiency. Add to that it worked out costs, complying to the law exactly, including pension contributions, tax amounts, holidays, time off work due to illness, etc., insurance, rent, and more. When it came to asking his group questions, I asked him every single thing he had overlooked legally, like time off for work, pay increases, etc. On the way out, the other groups gave me a smile as it had shut him right up. Hey guys, are you enjoying the video? If so, please like and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. Anyways, back to the stories. Story 4. Had an older lady road rage me. Long story short, I pulled into a parallel space in front of the cop shop, and she ass-ended me going 30. But she wasn't done. She backed out, drove up the street, turned around, and then smashed into me head-on, screeching the entire time. The officers came out in time to see her smash me a second time. I got out all shaky-legged, wide-eyed, and scattered. A cop came and helped me get up the curb, while another was pulling the woman out of her vehicle. She was screaming about young people being bad drivers, screaming at me being a disrespecting millennial. I replied, "Ma'am, I may be a millennial, but at least I won't be in jail for child endangerment, you freaking musty bag of skin." She didn't realize my 4-year-old was in the car. The cop busted up laughing as she was screeching about my foul language. I went in for the dirty word kill, calling her a slimy jizz sock, a cobwebbed old frickball, whatever I could think of. The cop admonished me but was still chuckling. I was pretty sure this lady was purple, she was so angry. I went to her court date. She lost her license permanently, had to do 80 hours of anger management, 120 hours of community service, and was credited for 3 days in jail. She was 84. Story 5. When I was a broke college student, a wealthy older lawyer hit my car. No damage to his, but mine was crumpled, and I spent all of my no money at the time keeping it on the road. I was going literally 7 miles per hour in a parking lot and he was entirely at fault. We exchanged insurance info and I had to get a rental car until mine was fixed. He dodged the insurance calls for about 2 weeks, forcing me to pay out of pocket for the rental, about $600, which I definitely didn't have. I knew this guy was an old snooty lawyer. My dad is a court attorney, and while I have never used this flex, I finally had to ask my dad to call him and talk some lawyer at him. 15 minutes later I get a call and insurance will go forward. Fast forward like 8 years, I'm bartending at a swanky lounge where a Chamber of Commerce event is going on, just for local business people to rub elbows and network. This lawyer douche is really feeling himself and charming the room. He orders a glass of wine from me and then stops and says, "Hey, miss, do I know you?" So I came back loudly with, "Well, not really, but you hit my car in a parking lot a few years ago when I was a broke college student and stuck me with the bill. Do you want to open a tab for the wine or close out now?" He did not open a tab. Edit, you guys seem to like this one, so I have a bonus for you. Back somewhere around 2005 I went to see a band play and 30 Seconds to Mars was opening for them. Jared Leto was in that band, and at the time Lindsay Lohan was dating him. I live not far from where she grew up, and just a few days before a friend told me that LL acted like an enormously entitled bitch towards her a few days ago when they were walking their dogs, something about refusing autographs that no one asked for. We got right up to the front during their set. OMG, they were so bad. So we could be in place for the next band. Right behind the barrier was Lindsay watching the set. I motioned her over and asked her to take a photo. She starts yelling like, "OMG, I'm just normal person trying to watch my boyfriend, leave me alone." Exactly the reaction I was hoping for. I put on my best innocent confused face and said I just wanted a pic with my boyfriend since we made it to the front row. And then said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were someone famous or something." She went backstage after that. Honestly, had never felt so cool. Edit 2 shit gold. Gotta learn what that means now. Can't wait to tell the boss at that job that my bitchy attitude in fact will eventually earn me something. Story 6. Maybe only legal professionals will get this, but I was arguing a motion to dismiss on a simple, typical type of case that we do very often in that field of law. In arguing a motion to dismiss, the only information that matters is what's mentioned in the complaint, the document that begins a lawsuit, and basically lays out the case. Opposing counsel started using random facts from the file in his argument. The judge asked me if it was true. I responded that I don't know because I haven't even looked at the file on this case before this hearing. Since it's a motion to dismiss hearing and all that matters is the words contained within these pages, and I held up the 3-page complaint in the air. Basically, I admitted I didn't study the case at all, but it didn't matter because those facts aren't allowed in a motion to dismiss hearing. It was bold and I was scared when I said it. I won the hearing. Afterwards, the other lawyer was fuming and approached me to basically convince me that he was right. He accused me of manipulating the judge with the law and logic. And he said the judge seemed like the kind of guy who is whipped by his wife. And the woman. I just kept smiling and thought it was hilarious what a poor loser this guy was. To make it even better, a high-powered attorney who was in the courtroom waiting for his own hearing exited while we were talking and came up to high-five me and compliment my argument. The loser was so crestfallen. I couldn't wipe the smile off my face the whole day. Story 7. Doesn't exactly fit but still love this moment. Driving through a few states, I came through a small town with a more right-leaning population. There was a protest in town in regards to a religious belief and choices that people should or should not be able to make. I didn't share their belief, but support people's right to have their own opinion. An aside, I listen to very loud music that many find scary due to the way it sounds. Also, as a young man with expendable income and being a bit of an audiophile, had invested some thousands of dollars into a stereo system that sounded amazing but had enough range to make people jump if not expecting it. As I came pulling into this town, I was being respectful and turned my music down and maybe even more than I would normally since my windows were down. I am not offended by vulgarity, but try to be polite to others and small children. I happened to be listening to a song called Immaculate Misconception by Motionless in White. I'd play my iPod on shuffle and happened to be on that song. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. I get to the intersection with the protest, light turns yellow and I can't make it through. Okay, people chanting and yelling, whatever, do your thing. As I come to a stop, a woman runs to my car kind of aggressively, leans down to window height, and I see a big inhale to, I'm assuming, scream something at me. generally paranoid, veteran, social anxiety, etc. Not happy. My hand was still on my iPod from turning the volume down and I just cranked the volume. Right at the breakdown. Before her mouth made words, my vehicle screamed, quite audibly for the genre, "Open your mind before your mouth," as I unblinkingly gave my resting bitch face stare. This aggressive screaming lady recoiled, probably at the volume, and it probably hurt her ears, but plenty of service-related hearing loss. I was comfortable. Then in the background, as she starts to back up, realizing my vehicle isn't the one, I realize everyone has stopped chanting, moving, holding signs, etc., and everyone was staring mouth agape. I believe I would have done that move regardless of the song or words. It was a reflex. But the words said, the situation, the timing, everything was so perfect that I still smile. Too long didn't read, didn't actually say a word. Let my perfectly timed music speak for me when some religious fanatic tried rushing my open vehicle window. Story 8. Sorry this is long. I was at the beach a couple years ago with like 10 friends. We had gone out for a 2-day vacation, rented a big house on the coast. But one, now ex-friend, really wanted to do the ice bucket challenge with me, and I said no thanks, I'm good, but he kept insisting. I told him no because 1, I didn't want that. No means no, bitch. 2, I didn't have a swimsuit on and I wasn't gonna go put it on for something again that I didn't want to do, and 3, I didn't have any extra clothes, and we were driving home that night, a 2-3 hour drive. He called me a pussy and a coward all day and I played along like, oh haha, you got me, guess I'm a real pussy, whatever dude. But then when another friend met up with us later in the day, and she knew nothing about all this, he told her to dump ocean water on me as a prank. She said sure, and he filmed it, and it was humiliating. The rest of our friend group had witnessed him harassing me, for lack of a better word, all day, so to see this happen and for it to go down like that, they were stunned into silence. He stood there with a huge grin on his face, filming the whole thing. And since he was filming me, I was scared to overreact or otherwise emotionally feed into whatever he was up to. I didn't want to end up on Twitter or something and people be like, what a crazy bitch, it's just a prank. You know, I was so beyond angry that I became calm. I've never been so angry and so done in a matter of seconds. I remember I looked around at everyone, then looked him in the eyes and said, that is embarrassing. Then I walked back to the house we were all staying in, showered off the gross sandy ocean water, and had to go out and buy a new shirt. It was an awkward drive home. I haven't spoken to him since, and he's still mad at me for not being able to take a joke. Bonus, when his girlfriend broke up with him for reasons related to how awful of a person he is, he blew up my phone calling and texting me, accusing me of meddling with his relationship. I had no idea what the frick he was talking about, so I told him I'm literally sitting at home, dude. Ike, what's going on in your life or what to tell you, but good luck. Of course he didn't believe me, and insisted I was feeding her lies and spreading rumors about him, despite her and I never talking. Again, no fricking clue what the hell he was on about, but I'm glad she broke up with his crazy ass, lol. Edit, a word. Story 9. Lead software engineer at a small company. Primary application is super slow, 30 minutes 45 seconds per page to load. I had taken time, including some of my own, to develop huge overhauls to the core engine to reduce load time around 50 minutes 75% in my initial tests. I was constantly told by the CEO to work on the new features new clients were asking for instead of doing something that would set QA back months. Fast forward a couple months and one of the big old clients threatens to leave unless changes are made to speed up the application. The CEO got everyone together to discuss this and make a plan. He started off with, we here are dedicated to making sure our application is as fast as possible, at which point I lost it, and said the following, BS, if you cared about speed you would have let me work on all of my speed improvements. In fact, I have beta quality changes that appear to reduce load time by a considerable amount and I was told it would bother QA too much. You don't care about speed, you care about shutting the client up and making new features. I realize this pales in comparison to what others have already posted. But it was my proudest mic drop moment to date. The CEO is a cool guy and a friend of mine. Occasionally you just have to hit them over the head with their own words in front of a bunch of people. Too long didn't read. CEO got yelled at by customer about app being too slow, and I yelled at him, in front of a bunch of people, that I had a solution for it months back that he chastised me for making. Story 10. 3 years ago, when I was about 19, I would often walk through my local park to try and get exercise during the summer. One time when walking through the park, I was one of the only people in the park, until a group of boys who looked like they were in high school showed up. I didn't think anything of it as it was a public park and I was focused on getting in some miles walking. However, I noticed as I kept walking, this group of boys hung out in the corner of the park, staring at me non-stop as I made my laps. I brushed it off as they were probably just wondering why I was walking in circles around the park all by myself, or perhaps shocked at how tall I am. I'm 5 feet 10 and so I'm used to people staring and asking me questions. Although after about an hour of them watching me it was starting to become unsettling. They had migrated to the back of the park, staying in their cluster and whispering among themselves, probably up to something mischievous. I just happened to be on one of my last laps when I walked right by them. As I walked by I heard one yell out, "Hey." I quickly turned my head to them. When I looked at them, one of them then yelled, "Can I have your number?" Looking him right in the eyes, with no laughing or hesitation, I yelled back, "Why? Need a babysitter?" The group of boys busted out laughing at their friend who failed at trying to get my number, and their friend at this time was hiding his face in embarrassment and sinking lower to the ground in shame. It was truly one of the best roasts I have ever done in my life, and I was even surprised at myself for saying something back because normally I am shy and quiet, especially around people I don't know. Story 11. So I had a friend who got anxious when people instigated conflict. Apparently something to do with bullies at an old school. I didn't want to make her go too far into it. Well, the boys at the table over were the type to instigate conflict. The type to walk up, ask for food, then call you a bitch when you said no, and the type to pick up your bag and slam it into the ground. And I became the main conflict facer, mainly because I don't care if I get in a fight, since I have it going for me. A plus student, doesn't cause problems, teacher's pet, the whole shebang. Plus parents that have told me that I won't get in trouble as long as I don't throw the first punch. Plus I was, and still am, a bit rowdy. Anyway, onto the tale. The dude bros come on their regularly scheduled tomfoolery. Whatever, I thought. It's normal, I thought. Just throw a retort and move on with your lunch. I was wrong. After they come up they start picking on my friend with anxiety. I stand up and stand by her, hand on her shoulder, offering support. He then yelled something at me, I don't really remember, and it triggered my friend into a panic attack. My other friends moved in to comfort her and I stepped up to the plate. One thing to note here is the size difference. I was 51, he was around 58. Significant height difference. Also, I am a lacrosse player, goalie specifically, and move like it when in conflict mode. Basically, I wasn't letting them anywhere near her. I glared up at him, he scoffed, and his buddies and him chuckled. He asked me something along the lines of, "Do you think you can take me? I'll beat you," and oh boy was I ready. Remember, I am not allowed to throw the first punch. And remembered a story my dad told me, which I won't get into right now because this is getting lengthy. "Do it then. Hit me," I said, getting up in his face. He took a step back. I would immediately close it. "Do it." Dead silence. He didn't end up hitting me. But oh, I wish he did. After a few rounds of that, the most even-headed of my friends pulled me back and told me to sit down and keep eating. Looking back, I was probably scaring my friend. They kept muttering about how I was psycho, and every time I would loudly ask, "What was that?" Sadly, that's the end of the tale. No big fight, no big moment, and my friend ended up leaving since she didn't like sitting near them, and the lack of other tables meant we were kind of at a loss to sit with her. I continued being rowdy and getting in verbal altercations with them, but it never escalated physically. I have tons of stories about those boys, but this one was definitely the one that felt most like righteous fury and less like dealing with literal children. Edit for formatting. On mobile, realized the formatting was egregious.